I was at Leeds Fest last weekend, as anyone who watched the last clips or last episode will know, and I was there for all 3 days. So I thought I'd jump in, do a little bit of a review of Leeds Fest overall, some of my favourite performers, worst performers, and then we'll move on to, if this is a clip, go check us out on Spotify. We'll move on to like what it was actually like in the camping and with the fires, etc. But I thought we'd start off, controversial one. Again, we might talk about this a bit more in depth later. And that is my best act of the weekend.
Okay, all right.
So it was actually a really difficult choice because I was really excited for all 3 headliners. You had the 1975, Dave on the Saturday, and then Arctic Monkeys on the Sunday. And I personally thought that Arctic Monkeys would be by far the best, but that actually wasn't the case. So for me, the 1975, because they did a 2-hour set, right? So compared to Dave only did like an hour and 15 minutes or something.
Really?
Yeah. He came 40 minutes late and then didn't do a massive set, which he didn't do some of his biggest songs as well, or some of the ones that I really like, maybe not his biggest. Monkeys were good. Again, though, they were 15 minutes late. They didn't do Mardy Bum. They didn't do Fluorescent Adolescent. They didn't do Is It When the Sun Comes Down, When the Sun Goes Up or something. So they missed 3 of my favourite and of their biggest tracks. Mm-hmm. Whereas the 1975, I expected not only me to be disappointed, but the boys that I was going with to be disappointed. I thought that they really wouldn't like them. But then they came on, did a 2-hour banging set. Every single big song of theirs they did, other than Girls, I think, if I remember correctly. But that, for me, put them at the top of the headliners list. I actually probably preferred Arctic Monkeys a little bit more, but I think as like a best act, I think that they really stole the show out of the headliners. Plus, Monkeys looked like they didn't even want to be there half the time.
I think also with the 1975 was that obviously you got Monkeys and they were doing the older stuff and they were doing this, that, and the other. I watched the set on BBC. So watched it through. I think it was their Reading set though, but they did play all the bangers, but they also played a fair few of their newer stuff. And I think the thing with 1975 was that they'd obviously had to put this show together last minute, and they just said, shall we just do our greatest hits? And they just did every song was a banger for their fans. I don't think they were all bangers, but every song that they did was a big song with their fans. So I think that played in their favour because obviously everybody knew all the songs then, and also the fact their set just seemed to go on forever.
It did go on forever. I was a bit like, I wasn't happy when it ended, but it like ended at the right time. If there was another couple of songs, it might have dragged on a little bit long then.
I was going to say, I was there on the Friday, so I did, unfortunately, I came with you to see...
for anyone that saw the last clip, you'll know that Tim's not a 1975 fan, but we'll debate them in a little bit anyway. So they're my favourite act of the weekend. Partly because they were so good, partly also because since then, both of my friends that came to see them have said, oh no, they were actually really sick, and they've then listened to some of their music and added it to the playlist and stuff, which is just nice for me to see a band that I like being appreciated by some of my friends unexpectedly. And then the next is the worst act of the weekend.
Right, this will be a good one.
Again, a difficult one. Most people I saw were actually really good. Like, there was barely anyone that disappointed me. I mentioned Dave. I thought his set was a little bit short, but he was still good, like, performance-wise. He put on a good show. The worst of the weekend, and actually by quite a distance, the one group of people or pair of people that I would never go see again was D Block Europe. So they're like a UK rap duo.
Right.
Literally, most of the songs, they weren't even doing anything. It was just the song playing in the background. And like, both of my friends who like them and wanted to go see them were like, nah, that was shit. Like, all 3 of us have said, and they're fans of theirs, that they were by far the worst of the weekend. So they were putting on a performance, but not actually performing. Just walking around stage. Every now and then you'd get a little bit of an auto-tuned verse. And apparently they only did like a 25 minute or half an hour set when they were meant to do 40 minutes, which again is really poor. But I think when I'm going to see a live band, I'm really looking to see like an actual performance. How they're going to do it live? Is there going to be any differences? Can the person sing live? You know, you want to see them do their thing properly, not just listen to the backing track like I do at home.
Did they have? Was it one of those backing tracks where they also had the vocals in the backing track?
No, so it was just a backing track. Like they had the song on with them coming in with maybe a third of the song.
Fucking hell.
And just walking around stage, just like, you know.
Because at least do like, you know what, there's a fair few like Riff Raff and people like that where they literally just have their whole song on in the background and occasionally come in with the words, because then at least you're playing the song and you've got
yeah, I had the whole
lyrics in
song
there.
on, so the lyrics were on in the background as
That's
well.
what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they had that,
Right.
but that's all you could hear most of the
Yeah,
time,
that's not on. That's
which
not
was
on.
disappointing.
I feel like there's a fair few rap groups that go down that route though, and I feel like sometimes it's because either they're not confident enough to do it live, they're too fucked up, or it's because they physically can't do it live, or you know what I mean. And they've recorded all their lines in separate lines in the studio and just pasted them together. So when they actually do it live, they go, "Shit, I don't know if we can do this." But yeah.
So then moving on to another category, it's the biggest surprise of the weekend, whether for good or bad. And I actually had two people in this. The first one I want to mention is Denzel Curry. So I've been a fan of Denzel for a few years now, and especially his last album was really good. I know it was highly acclaimed by most critics. Everyone really liked it. But I went into that gig with not low expectations, but I thought up in Leeds, middle of the day, it was like 1 or 2 o'clock or something I think he was on. I didn't expect too much of it. Amazing. Like, his performance was sick, did all the bangers, crowd interaction was there, the crowd was lively, everyone was getting in the mosh pits. My mate was loving it. He would try to escape and then coming back in and then try to escape. But he was like 10 out of 10 for me. And he was one of those where now, if he ever comes to the UK, even if it's in Manchester, I'll definitely venture to see him.
I think hands down, he was one of my favourite acts of the weekend. I say the weekend, of the Friday that I went. And the upsetting thing was, though, is that at the end of his set, he wanted to do another song.
And they wouldn't let him.
I am almost certain it was going to be Bulls on Parade, which would have been absolutely insane. But then obviously he came back out and he was like, I can't carry on. Everyone's like, one more song. And he was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Which in comparison to, I don't know if you heard about Bad Boy Chiller Crew, what happened with them at Leeds Fest, and they wouldn't come off the stage. And then the manager or somebody got into a fight with the stagehands, and then 2 people got arrested, and then they couldn't perform Reading because whoever it was somewhat important, and then they had to pull out of Reading because they got arrested.
I actually saw a video of them fighting someone on stage, but to be fair, that it doesn't surprise me with Bad Boy Chiller Crew at all.
No, not at all. But that's their kind of style and their gimmick.
That headline is worth the publicity for them, for sure.
Yeah.
And then my other shout for a surprise act was, there was, after Dave went back to the tents, got stupid fucked up, and then I got a tweet notification saying Gorgon City are about to do a secret set in the Relentless, which is like it's forests that have got like loads of massive lights hung in between the trees.
That's sick.
And oh my god, I was absolutely twisted, right? And I should remember, because I like Gorgon City anyway, or at least I did when I was younger, and I just saw that a big band to do it, like it was at like 1:30 a.m. the secret set. So like everyone there, like I don't even think most people expected them to be on. It was just people who were going there for like the rave. It was so good. I just remember stood there looking at the lights, absolutely loving my life. Like, it was 10 out of 10, but that's not someone I would have gone out of my way to see. But now, again, if I saw that they were at Leeds Fest or doing a gig in Leeds, I think, oh yeah, I might actually go see them, because they were pretty good.
I think that's a good thing about festivals, is that sometimes you'll, like, not accidentally, but you'll just say, oh, I'll go see them because I want to fill time. You know, I've got a 2-hour gap between these 2 bands I really want to see. You end up going and see one of these smaller artists that you maybe know 2 or 3 songs of, and then you go, wow, that was a fucking good live set. And then that makes you into a fan of that artist, even if you weren't before, just because of how good they are live. You go back and you go, maybe I should listen to more of this shit and see if they come back again, go watch them live, if they tour or something like that, innit?
Yeah,
so,
true.
good stuff.
And then the last one of the mini Leeds Fest topics was, who do I think / want to be the 2023 headliners?
Oh, okay.
So I've kind of just got a few in my brain that I'm just going to fire out there. My first choice would be Blink, because there's rumours that the original Blink lineup are getting back together. I'd love that. And I think most people, even younger people, know at least a few Blink songs, and they'd pull a pretty decent crowd, and obviously day tickets would sell well for that. So I'd love it if that was them and the original lineup. A slightly more realistic one, and one that I think could definitely be the case, is Billie Eilish. And I think that she would be like one of the 3 big, because there was like 3 bigger and 3 smaller headliners this year.
Yeah.
I think she'd be like one of the first females to be one of the first like bigger headliners.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
And then I think for one of the smaller ones, Queens of the Stone Age, they were meant to perform in 2020, I think, or 2021, and dropped out because one of them had COVID. They've headlined a few times before, and there's been an interview with the organizer of Leeds Fest, the owner of Festival Republic, who said that they've booked 4 of the headliners and 2 of them have headlined before.
Right. So yeah,
that'd
yeah,
make
yeah, so
sense.
there's a good-
I don't think they're big enough to be like the main one on
No.
the day, but
No,
they
I
could
don't think
easily
so.
do the second slot. And then my last shout, and one that he's done it a couple times, and I think he'll always be welcome, is Eminem, because he's not done it since like 2017, and
20. Yeah, it was 2017.
yeah, I
right?
was there. Yeah, it was 2017. Amazing set, and I think that it'll always sell tickets to both the younger and older generation. So I think having that mixture of like Eminem, Billie Eilish as two of the bigger ones, and then having like Queens of the Stone Age and Blink as like some of the older ones, you could then fill the other two slots with pretty much whoever.
The only thing with M is that he has not done a hell of a lot of stuff in the past 5 years. So it's a question of, because I'd love to see him at a festival, and I am hoping that in the next year or 2 years, like 23, 24, that he will perform at some festivals. But I think first he needs to get some big shows out of the way. He needs to do like London. He needs to do like somewhere in.
But this
Europe
is an easy reason to do it, though. I think a lot of artists will see Reading and Leeds as I'm doing 2 shows to 2 huge audiences in the UK. Like, it's just a perfect opportunity.
Yeah,
there's
guess
not as
so.
much organisation. You're just going to get paid for showing up with your rider, and it's not as much on your management team per se. It's more on the festival organisation. So I think that to say he's not done, I know they've still done big numbers, but he's not had as many big hits on the last few albums. Maybe doing an album tour for something specific might not be the shout anymore. The shout might be to just come over and do a festival.
No, there's no way he'd do an album tour.
Yeah.
He hasn't got an album to tour.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, he might do some songs off Music to Be Murdered By and some off Kamikaze, but he's not toured either of those albums. And since Revival, which was a massive flop critically and with his fan base, I think he's just kind of not fallen off the map, but also you got to remember that he's a massive hypochondriac and he's been absolutely terrified of COVID and refusing to leave his house, and he just keeps himself to himself. So there's a chance that we may never see him again. I mean, we definitely will. He did the VMAs with Snoop Dogg the weekend.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And that was cringy because it was all NFT based, but it was, he's doing something. He's getting himself out there. Yes. So I'm hoping this is the start of him.
So he's one of my he's my last shout as one of the big headliners at Leeds Fest. And I just wanted to sign off this little Leeds Fest bit by saying it was actually one of my favourite weekends of my whole life. And like, if anyone's thinking about going to Leeds Fest, just do it. Like, ignore the negative press and stuff that you saw. I'm going to touch on that in a second about the camping aspects and stuff. But if you're thinking about it and you're 16 or over, because I think that's probably the age where you should really start doing those things, then just go do it, because you'll have the time of your life. And if you don't, at least you're having an experience that you'll never forget. Yeah. I created some of the best memories with some of my best friends and just had a sick time. And I would advocate it to anybody. Thank you for watching. That was a clip from the Man Overboard podcast.
And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to click on the links down below, because we're on every streaming service and that's where you can find full episodes.
Peace.